Thank you, Ken. Yeah, Bob Stern, Director of Partnerships and Alliances at Trimble. We're located here in the Denver metro area in Westminster, and our technology provider across a number of different solutions, a number of different markets, in particularly around local government and the design, build, operate, and maintain work stream. We provide a number of solutions around digital project delivery, asset management. Many of you might be familiar with CityWorks and eBuilder and Agile Assets are some of our solutions, and we do a lot of geospatial mapping and GIS software built on top of Esri ArcGIS. I'm also here with my colleagues Matt Watts and Rob Jordan. We have a table out here. We're a sponsor at the event, so please come talk to us if you want to learn more about our solutions and partnering with us. I've been at Trimble more than 18 years in a number of different roles and responsibilities. So I've seen a lot around local government and utilities, and happy to be here today and sponsor the event. So I'll go ahead and turn it over to my esteemed colleagues and panelists. Patrick.
Hi, everyone. I'm Patrick Riley. I'm the construction manager for the City and County of Denver's Transportation Implementation Division.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Esther Rodriguez. I am an IT project manager for the City of Colorado Springs.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Kim Swearingen. I work for Colorado Springs Utilities in the Vertical Asset Design Group, Water Wastewater.
Hi, I'm Dave Skoutis. I'm the Design, Construction, and Maintenance Director at the Mile High Flood District. We work along our urban waterways around the greater Denver metro area.
Okay, so tying into our topic today, streamlining project delivery for efficiency and cost effectiveness in the Mountain States. So I'll go ahead and start off with our first question, which is, can each of you briefly cover how you're using cutting-edge tools from BIM? So we talked about vertical construction, vertical asset management, so that's becoming more and more a big topic in our industry. So cutting-edge tools from BIM to GIS and project management software to optimize planning, design, and construction management. And can you please also include how you're streamlining processes and project management as a result of using these tools? Maybe cite a couple examples. So we'll go ahead and start with Patrick and then go down the row.
Yeah, so at the city, we're in the process right now of transitioning our internal software over to Masterworks, really with a focus on communication, trying to eliminate point-to-point emails and the inefficiencies that come with those. We use a number of software across the city. We use GIS in certain programs. We've used Procore. We use BIM. We use, a plethora of softwares. There's Bluebeam, Review for collaboration purposes. Really, in my opinion, the best softwares we can use are driving those collaboration points and eliminating point-to-point failures. Any place that we can get rid of something sitting in somebody's inbox, waiting on them to see it, to review it, to move forward. Any place that we can increase the transparency of where things are in a process, allow multiple people to see things, or just to even know where a process goes and be able to see the chain. Those are all positives. Additionally, from a construction management standpoint, seeing where the industry has come in the last 10 years and where it's going, we're starting to see BIM used more in a horizontal space, where traditionally it's been more vertical for collision detection. I know we've seen it on a couple of projects where we're starting to see the modeling really go below grade, which is exciting. I know Trimble obviously has its AR platforms that are coming to life, and seeing that continue to move and develop is an exciting place for the industry to go.
So for the City of Colorado Springs, we have worked internally in creating our own tool for project reporting. We want to make sure that we're transparent with our customers. We launched it last year, and it's available to all our customers. They can see who the project manager is, updates of what are we doing, who's working in the project, what's happening on a daily basis without the need to reach out to the project manager or business owners. So we've been working really hard to really ensure transparency, to use the tools that we have, and to reevaluate the tools that are out there and tools that we have in-house, that we can be more efficient and really take advantage of what we are utilizing today and how we can serve our customers better using technology.
At Colorado Springs Utilities, and pretty much any utility that I've worked for, similar to the City and County of Denver, it's been very much focused on ArcMap and GIS when it comes to reporting our assets to the public. We as engineers, of course, use AutoCAD and all the various vertical assets that we can put into AutoCAD. We're still kind of working through some of that because there's not too much in the way of expertise when it comes to the vertical side. But we also use, Maximo for asset management, which isn't necessarily the greatest solution, but we are using it. We also use Bluebeam Review, similar to the City and County of Denver, to make sure that we get our reviews done correctly and appropriately. Recently, we have a very large project that's happening on the eastern side of Colorado Springs, where we have to communicate with a large number of stakeholders, developers, commercial developers, the airport, very, very high level folks that need to be involved, and as well as our consultants and our contractors. So what we've been trying to do is just engage with them one-on-one. That's one of the things that we're doing really great, I think, right now. What we're still struggling with is that we use SharePoint. We don't really use a project management software. SharePoint is great for exchange of information, but it's not real great when it comes to the actual project management. So that's kind of a sticking point for us. We're still looking for that project management solution so that we can make sure that we have continuity between all of our projects.
Well, I work for a really small agency. We're up to 50 people now, which is, but when I started in 2010, there was only like 20 people. And I'm not making this up, our accountant was using a DOS-based accounting system and computer, like with function commands, and doing accounting by hand in ledgers. And then the guy had a stroke and he had to write with his offhand. So if you had to make him redo something, he would get really, really angry with you. And that was through 2015, and we finally updated that. But so anyway, all that to say, we kind of evolve at a little bit of a glacial pace just because we've been so small and it hasn't been that necessary. But one of the big newer things we have is we've developed a custom solution called Confluence, and it's basically an online platform that really attempts to combine GIS and information from different databases and allows us to have a view into the portfolio of projects we have, and also be a means through which the community can get access to things like hydraulic models and floodplain models and information about older projects. But one other thing about technology I think is kind of an interesting conversation we're having lately is just this idea of how contractors are using technology in ways we need to keep that in mind with our projects and with our designers. So really just like GPS-enabled construction equipment. Designers still get into this mode of needing to put in a bunch of survey tables and things like that on plans, and then you ask the contractor, do you actually use that? And they're like, no, not a bit. And so really just thinking through contractor, what kind of 3D surface do you want or need from the consultant? And then, hey, consultant, what quality did you take that 3D surface to, and where should the contractor rely on that versus the plans? And those are some interesting conversations we've been having lately.
Thank you for that. And I think maybe some of you have heard of like Excel or Google Sheets, and many of us are still using spreadsheets. And just a plug for all the sponsors.
Spreadsheets, man. Spreadsheets are, that's always going to have always a place for spreadsheets.
I still use it to manage my partners, but anyways, there is software out there by the sponsors, Trimble, Kahua, Procore, and others, that we can help you digitally transform your workflows in a number of different ways, especially around construction management and project management. Okay, so Patrick, you mentioned transparency, so that's a good segue to our next question. So how important is transparency to successful and streamlined project delivery?
I think it's a key outcome driver. So you have to be predictable and you have to be transparent, and that goes for all parties involved, whether it's your designer, whether it's it's your own employees, whether that's your contractor that's delivering the work. Everyone has to have aligned goals, and you'll hear this term a lot, I think, today when we talk about project first mentalities, and that's all driven off of this transparency that happens. We have to have an aligned goal of where we're going, and we have to agree with that, right? We can't take a road trip and not know where we're going, and we can't have aligned goals if we don't know everyone's motivations. And it's okay that we have contractors that are going to make money, and it's okay that we have consultants that are going to make money. There's nothing wrong with that. I believe from the city's perspective that that's what we want. I want my consultants to be profitable, and I want my contractors to be profitable, because when they're profitable, that means I typically get good work out of them. I get their A teams. I want to be the best client that I can for them, because that means we typically have good projects and we have good outcomes. And those good outcomes only really come when we all agree on what that is. And if I have a consultant that isn't telling me what they need for them to be successful, or I have a contractor that isn't clear with what they're wanting or needing or what their problems are, if I'm not being truthful with what's going on in my world, then it's hard for us to get to a good, clear, concise endpoint. Like, you can be lucky occasionally, but that's not good and that's not healthy. That transparency lets you kind of eliminate those luck parts, right? Like, we want people to be successful. We want our projects to be successful. From our side, I'm representing taxpayer money. Like, there's a public trust that goes with that. And that transparency lets us operate with integrity and lets us operate in the most truthful place we can be. So I think that transparency and project first mentalities really have to drive everything that we do. We have a public accountability in my world where I have to be able to stand in front of, whether it's the mayor or a taxpayer that stops me on the street and asks what we're doing, and be able to explain why we're doing what we're doing. And I want my consultant or my contractor to be able to sit there and say the same thing.
Right on.
So when it comes to transparency for us, it relates to really we want our customers to have access to all the information that relates to project. We want them to be involved and to trust in us as an advisor. In the past, we run into challenges where a customer wants to implement certain technology and they probably don't understand that it may pose a risk to our city when it comes to our IT infrastructure. So we're trying to work really hard to build those relationships, to work with customers in really making sure that they see that we are here to partner with them. The tools that we have allow us to be engaged from the beginning of where requirements are being gathered, and a customer comes up to us with a need for a solution, for us to be able to really work with them from the beginning to really selecting a solution that is going to be good for them, but that will also will not put our city infrastructure at risk.
Public trust is a huge thing for government. It's very, very important for utilities especially. We battle that every day. So transparency is a huge thing in our world. We cannot hold things to ourselves. It's just not possible because we lose public trust. So I mentioned recently that we had some great communication with the consultant world. We put on an industry day for that project that I mentioned called the East Wastewater System Expansion. And we had an internal struggle with what method of project delivery we were going to come up with. We did not know what the industry could bear because this is a $250 million project. So we wanted to know from the consultants what procurement strategy we needed to do. But we also had to keep in mind that, we are only so many people and so many, we can only do so much because, we have to be the stewards of taxpayer dollars. So during that industry day, we got feedback on what delivery method we were going to implement. And we did finally settle on an owner's engineer with in concert with a progressive design build. But we did not come up with that solution in a vacuum. We came up with that solution with the input of all the folks that attended that industry day. We had 120 consultants and contractors in that day, and it was very successful. We felt that it was, our way of, not just, doing this echo chamber of what we think we should do, but, getting that feedback. And that's where transparency is super important. We garnered trust with those consultants during that conversation. So transparency is a huge thing in our world.
Yeah, and thank you for bringing that up, because I think without transparency, you can't have trust. And if you don't have trust, then you don't have very effective design and construction teams. And I think being in the ownership role, what I appreciate about what you were saying is you were very transparent about, this is a big project, maybe we've never done anything like this before, we're not sure of the right thing to do, help us out. I think that's really wonderful in getting input from the people who are then going to be on the receiving end of whatever sort of contracting process you're working with. And I think that's really huge for anybody in the ownership role, is to be transparent about what issues you're dealing with, what's driving your project, things you have challenges with or not. It could be as simple as, you know what, we have a really difficult time amending contracts, so we're going to build in a force account. It's not meant to be abused or anything, but it's there so we don't have to go to council because they have a very difficult time giving us contract amendments. But even just transparency around things like that creates trust, and then everybody feels like you're working on the same team, rowing in the same direction, really, as Patrick was saying.
Yeah, and transparency is really important to us as technology vendors too, to make sure that we're aligning our solution to what your specific needs and requirements are, so you get not only value out of using our solutions, but you achieve your goals and objectives for your projects. Okay, so Patrick, again, you talked about project first mentality. So can you tell me what that means to you and the rest of our panels? What does project, first mentality mean to you, mean to your jurisdiction, mean to your stakeholders?
For me, it's a point of pride. It's the name on your truck and your business card comes second. It's about how we're going to approach this delivery and how we're going to take pride in what we're doing for our communities and doing projects with our communities instead of to our communities. Doing it for the right reasons with the right aligned goals and letting things happen in a more organic sense for the right reasons. And I truly believe that if you align your goals from the beginning and you're doing it for the right reasons, the bottom lines will take care of themselves. If you can establish where you're going and you can establish the way that you're going to operate, the cost will take care of itself. I mean, it requires discipline and it requires intentionality, but when you're operating with discipline and with intentionality, you're going to get value, you're going to get your schedule compliance, you're going to get quality products, and you're going to get value for, in our case, the taxpayer, but generally for whoever the client is, and people are going to be happy with their end result. But it's all based on how you're approaching it and operating with that discipline from the beginning on.
So for us, it's more about we work in understanding what are the critical projects for our city, for leadership, for our citizens, and then a project mentality for me relates to really trying to be as efficient as we can in the delivery of the project, but more than that, to deliver value to our customers. That's one of our values. That we're just trying to deliver a project or complete a project. I mean, it's not just about completing and closing a project and here's a solution, but also being able to actually making sure that it's something that the customer finds valuable down the line, that we can support, that it can improve their business, and it can help employees do their jobs, whatever the solution that is. So we work really hard in making sure that our mentality is we try to deliver value through all our projects.
This is actually the first time I've ever heard of a project first mentality, so I had to kind of think about it. We as engineers tend to be very project driven, but there is more to a project than just design, construction, pre-planning. All that stuff is very important, but the person doing the project is probably the most important part. And I feel like, at least my experience in a lot of utilities, some better than others, are very good at taking care of their people. Because without the people, there's no projects. It's just a fact of life. So taking care of your people, making sure you have a culture of compliance, you have a culture of safety first, you have a culture of, you know, taking care of your folks that need vacations or mental health days or anything like that is extremely important, because if they don't have their own capacity, then the project fails.
Well, I'm glad you said that, because when I hear you say people first, I assume, which people are we talking?
That's a great question. So, I mean, from a project's perspective, I think it would have to be those engineers, designers, constructors. I mean, granted, we have clients, we have public, we have all those folks, we do. But driving folks into the ground is not how you get stuff done.
Yeah, well, I'm glad you said that, because when I thought of this, I thought you can't have a project first unless first you have the people first, and that means also your designers and builders. And I was really struck one time a few years ago when I had a contractor tell me, well, it's a people business, you know, and I was like, well, I don't know that I thought of it that way previously, but God, well, gosh, you're right. And if you don't take care of the designers and builders as if they're an extension of your own staff, I mean, this panel's about cost effectiveness and efficiency with project delivery, and there is nothing, there are processes you can implement and procurement processes, and there's software and all that stuff is great, but the human side of it has more impact on cost effectiveness and efficiency than anything else. I've had contractors really consistently tell me that for a similar scope of work, if you just change out the client, different clients could get charged 10, 20, 30% more for the same exact scope of work, and it's just based on how they deal with you. And so the human side of things has more impact than anything else.
And okay, so I'm going to skip some of the questions and move around a little bit, because since we're talking about the human side, I think let me start with you, David. We talked about building professional trust. So can you describe what you mean by that, and how does that promote collaboration amongst stakeholders and expedite project completion?
Yeah, well, everything starts with professional trust, and that happens on an individual level, it happens on an organizational level, and as owners, we develop reputations as organizations and as individuals, whether we like it or not, and everything stems from professional trust. And my favorite version of professional trust talks about the needing to have the balance of character and competence. Like, we're not going to have trust unless I believe you're competent and can do the work. And then character, you know, do you do what you say you're going to do? How do you make people feel? Those sorts of things matter as much as anything, because when we're talking about design and construction, this is knowledge work. We're not building widgets in a factory. And so how we make our project teams feel has a big impact on the free sharing of ideas, all these discretion, so much discretion everybody has. Like, no contract is going to make people like each other or trust each other. Like, it doesn't work that way. So we have to set a tone, and it really, owners tend to set that tone and create that culture, and it needs to be intentional. And not really even just with the person signing the contracts like me, but it's also the project manager, it's also the inspector. As everybody in here has an experience, especially if you've ever been on a sports team, you could have a team of 10 or 12 people, and if pardon my language, but if one of them's an asshole, it just makes the whole thing goes sideways really fast.
Those are all great points. I think that as an employee of a municipality or even a utility, professional trust and public trust go hand in hand. I was in business long before I became an engineer. I managed fast food restaurants. I helped out in nail tech salons. I did those things long before I learned to be a technical manager. And so in implementing those things that I learned as a municipality, we are typically not run like a business. We are typically run like a government, and very few people trust government. So when I was, working for, the smaller utilities that I work for, that's what we did. I basically engendered that trust with my employees, telling them, hey, we need to return calls within 24 hours. We need to implement, particular processes that make it look like we're a business, because that's what we are. We are the producer of their water. They are paying for the product of water. So let's treat it like that.
So for my personal experience building trust in the city requires to work really closely with the people that we serve. On the most recent project that I've been working, one of the things that really helped was since we provide services and implementations for different departments, sometimes they see us as an outsider, someone that comes here and implement a solution or a new technology that they may or may not want, or they have to. So just we try to implement our projects with a one-team mentality, where we are working really hard to really show our customers that we're part of their team, we're not against them. We are working together to help you instead of working against you. So on the latest project, like I said, coming from a different department to another department to implement the solution, what I did was really do shadowing sessions with this department, getting to know the people, building that trust that they didn't have on us. And then just from there, I see a really great improvement on project delivery and really being close to achieve results that the city wanted.
I think a lot of it is driven off of that predictability. It's paying people on time. It's doing what you say you're going to do. It is caring about the people. It's about doing the things that you need to do to be the preferred client. We've all seen an uncertain world, over the past 4 years. We've seen inflation drive a lot of things, which has limited our ability to deliver projects at times. And when you have those uncertainties, you have to be the preferred client. So when you're seeing project costs increase, you can sometimes cap those labor costs by being that preferred client and having people know that predictably in an uncertain world, you can be certain that you're going to get paid when we say you're going to get paid. And, for the city, that's inside of 35 days. So that that's coming, and there's certainty around that. And I think knowing that we care about our contractors and consultants on a human level, we care about the safety. We're not going to let unsafe situations happen, whether that's with our contractors or with the general public around our contractors, and that there's certainty around those things. Just building trust through our actions, I think, is really key for us, and the predictability that goes along with it. I think that it's just, we've had some uncertain times, and being a predictable partner for people and driving the trust through that predictability has been a key for us.
And I think going back to what you said about getting a vendor, consultants, and whoever you're working, getting the A team, right? When we know there's predictability in getting paid and, working with you in partnership, that'll get our attention. That'll get the A team, right? That'll get our focus in partnership with you. But not to neglect others who have struggles with the payment process and maybe going to the procurement side of things. So Kim, we have a couple minutes left, and maybe quickly we can talk about systems of procurement and payment helping or hurting working with designers and builders and project delivery, and talk about the process of procurement. And we'll start with you, Kim.
For government, procurement is a big monster for most folks, especially when you're talking about design, bid, build. It's a long process. You know, the design takes 1.5 to 2 years, and then at least in Colorado Springs Utilities case, sometimes procurement can take 6 to 9 months. So, you know, we as designers, engineers, and project managers try to at least internalize some of that slow process so that maybe we can expedite those things. It is a struggle, and unfortunately, because of transparency that we talked about earlier, you know, where we are talking about tax and tax and ratepayer dollars. So we have to be very transparent with that. So making sure everybody is treated fairly, all the bids are evaluated and taken care of fairly. It's a hard process, but you know, we as municipal entities are really trying to work on that process and at least make it more efficient.
Go ahead, David.
Oh, sure. Well, I think with any of our processes, it's thinking through in what ways is this helping cultivate or not. It's kind of a good interpersonal environment, because I think a low bid environment just from the outset creates a challenge. It creates a little bit of a game. You know, it's selecting the contractor based solely on who's cheapest, and that's not setting you up for success very well. And so I think anybody in the ownership role in particular needs to think about their processes and in what ways is this helping or hindering the human connection and having a really great working environment. And just as like one sort of simple example, I had a contractor once tell me, if I'm considering project opportunities with 2 adjacent communities and one has easier paperwork, I'm going with that one. I mean, it can be as simple as that.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and wrap things up here. So thank you, panelists. Just a plug for David. He has written a book on what it means to be a good client for vendors and consultants. And so if you want more information, that's a good place to go. And I'll just wrap this up by saying, you know, when everybody is in sync on a project and in sync and in alignment on goals, you will achieve efficiency and cost effectiveness and your desired outcomes. So thank you, panelists, and thank you again.